welcome to the fourth Chief Delegate meeting. And in the last meeting, we all showed our passion of community engagement, and that will be the theme today. Hope we can bring some valuable ideas to the community, and also expect after watching this video of this meeting, more either members or other people from the community who will join the discussion. But first, let's go through a few small things. Start with the updates, and we will be 2 minutes each. And I will go first. I've been working on EDM-CM's sub-projects this week, like the test system I mentioned before. It's now running off-chain. And the main process of this system is that the community published a test. All members from the community can take the test, or like some tasks maybe need to submit an application first. And after they finish the task, they will be in a random group meeting. They need to reach a consensus on the allocation of the reward. And the system is designed to increase community engagement. At the same time, with the system, EDM will be able to provide services to the community-supported projects, and they will be the ones who offer the jobs and tasks. I'm also working on building a community talent pool and a job board to make this system run more efficiently. And that's my update. It's what I'm working on this week. Who want to be the next?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. That was very cool, Gracie. I had a pretty busy week with work stuff this week, but still managed to do quite a bit. So obviously we got last week's video cut and posted onto Odyssey. I've spoken with the Odyssey team directly about adding the SRT functionality to the platform, so we can have subtitles in all languages, basically. They agreed with that, and they're going to try and prioritize and get it added ASAP. I shared the video for YouTube as well with Jesse, so he'll be posting that on YouTube. I have chased Annabelle a few more times regarding the Eden Twitter and YouTube, but just zero response. So hopefully we'll hear something on that soon. Good news on the subreddits. So both EOS and Eden subreddits, I am a mod of now. So we can work on that stuff. I've started clearing some of the backlog as well, the mod backlog, which is good. There's quite a few like outstanding moderation stuff there. Thanks to Lovejoy and Joshua, we now have possession of the Eden Discord, so we can start using that for our various events. I've begun working on a new governance proposal for Eden, which will potentially include the holacracy stuff that Joshua's been talking about, and potentially a way of making that work with the C-suite positions. So that would all fall under my originally proposed Eden member service system, but I'm not quite ready to present that yet. So hopefully next week. I've also finalized my position at Davos. So I will be speaking about Eden and Bylaws, and that's going to be at the Crypto House. I've begun laying out and designing the official Eden Chief Delegate decree documentations. So when we make a decision, we can publicize that as an official decree. I wasn't able to, unfortunately, lead the community engagement last week, but I will begin this week. And if Brock and Chuck and anyone else is interested, has a bit of time at some point, maybe we could sit and discuss this, see how we can best make it work for everyone. And we're a bit behind on the press releases. I wasn't able to do that last week, but we're going to get those out this week. I've got a new process in place for that. So they'll come out this week, as well as the Eden Community Town Halls, which will officially launch next week with the new team members. Yep, so that's me.
I'll go next. So I was mentioning that I'm doing some talks. I've got had a great success last Saturday afternoon. I talked for more than 3 hours to a group of about 27 people. We went through what, the whole what's wrong with money, all the way through Bitcoin, all the way through everything, and then ended off with EOS. I printed off these lovely card things So you can claim an EOS account, claim an NFT, which basically says that you were at that talk. And then on the back, it's like you can, it's too bright here, but you can scan these to go to relevant links in the EOS community. It's hilarious. Like the woman who's helping me do the talks, she got feedback forms from everybody. And it's really funny that I've got a bunch, I'm speaking to a bunch of older people, and they're all really, really dialed in. They know what's going on, and they want to participate. So my angle, talking about everything, the title of the talk was the Bitcoin sector and real life applications. And basically, I'm saying that money is not good enough, like sound money even is not good enough. We have to develop communities, real life communities. So we're now working towards building a real life network on the ground. People are going to start using EOS, interacting with each other, farmers markets and stuff in the region. Specifically, we are now working towards a food cooperative in our town, and another delegate and I are going to be helping to get that off the ground and fund it with our Eden resources. That's me.
I've had a busy week as usual. Yesterday was a TEDx talk at the largest TEDx here in New York City. Been with the consul generals of Panama and Turkey and the Bahamas. Was in the Bahamas for Crypto Bahamas. A lot of Telos conversation there. Really want to compliment AJ, who's been heading up their business development. He's really been showing up in a big way, and they're planning to be at Consensus in Austin in June as a sort of headline speaker. And they had some really good printed out sort of 4x6s or 8s or whatever those are, showing the performance of Telos and their EVM. And I sat in some meetings with some of the largest investors in the industry. And so it's, I thought, an excellent thing to see that EOS, in any of its iterations, any EOS IO chain being a topic of conversation again, that the largest players in the space are willing to listen to. I can't share too much detail, but it's a really sort of positive sign. And I'm focused a little bit on some of the larger exchanges, sock puppets, vote buying, and thinking through governance around Eden. I'm very supportive of where we're going in terms of trying to build a skeleton crew of personnel that supports the organization, that makes up the bones. We're not trying to build a large organization, but you have to have some organization to organize, call it community activities, to make us effective. Some rails, scaffolding, kind of thing. The other thing I hope we get into, and I'm giving some thought to, is our KPIs, right? How do we measure our success? Because I think that we're now, we're at the end of our first third of our term, which has been really working through the backlog. Now we're in that sort of center phase. How do we upgrade the organization in its current form? And then I think our last third is really about how do we lead the organization in terms of its future? I think there's no shortage of resources, right? The inflation that's been instituted has more resources than we know how to deploy at the ENF and otherwise. And so we should not be shy in terms of making big requests, as long as they're, legitimate ideas, and we've got ways to measure the impact. And so a lot of other things but I think I've gone 2 minutes. I'm constantly working, I think, as everyone knows.
Thanks for the updates. Thank you, Brock. And now we will go to the first topic. And we'll share my screen. You guys see it?
Probably needs to be plugged in.
Okay. And the first topic is, at the last meeting, we agreed to create an EDM technical office and post the lead position. Are there any updates, or is anyone interested in being the technical lead? Is the question maybe goes to Chuck?
I believe the only feedback I've received is the feedback from last meeting when Edgar said that Adania would like to be that technical lead. So that's really the only feedback I've had. There were a few people who saw the posting and commented on it favorably, but that's about it.
Anyone else?
I'd postpone making, sort of any. I'd push this off till next week since Edgar's preoccupied for good reasons. He's not here for the best of reasons.
I'm wondering, just do we need to set up a timeline for the code changing? Because we all agreed the next election will go on July, right? And then so at least we need to change the date of the next election and give enough time for the either members to sign or resign to participate. So
I think we can do that with just by all agreeing to hold a special election, even if it's not in the bylaws, if the bylaws haven't been ratified. I think we all agree to hold a special election. The election is whenever, we choose to relinquish our seats, right? I think there's multiple ways to address it.
Yes, but there is maybe a problem that if we don't change the time on the system, and then maybe our election will cannot use the system.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Gracie. So your concern is that if we leave it too long, and we won't actually have the time to make the code changes and the website changes, and then we'll end up overstaying our welcome as CDs. So, I kind of threw this out on the chat today with no preparation for you guys, so apologies. But I was thinking about it, and at this stage, I just kind of feel like Brock's right when he says resources aren't limited. I think Chris Barnes put together a nice package on how the Eden Treasury could be used. I think I would like to put a motion forward today to just ratify the original bylaws. I don't think we need to wait anymore. I think change the rules and then just make the tech happen because of the premise of changing the rules. We've all agreed we're going to do it, so that's where I am. So if anyone does want to second that motion, I'd be happy to vote it today. But if no one seconds it, then that's fine as well. We can let it lapse.
Edgar expressed, I believe he was expressing his affirmation of that, right? Like he proxied his vote to Gracie for this purpose. So I would second that. I think we can ratify the bylaws. I think we do have that technical lead position basically filled. And I think that we can confidently say that we can change those variables in the code before next. So it turns out that the next election is actually the 9th again, Saturday, the 9th of July, I think, if I read my calendar correctly. We don't have to make that part of this motion, but I think that we can move to ratify the bylaw document as given to us by the previous chief delegates.
Yes, I agree.
I agree.
So should we take a vote on that?
No.
I think you have to at this point. It's been motioned and seconded.
Okay. So all in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
And Gracie, are you proxying a positive vote for Edgar?
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. The bylaws are enacted, everyone. Hooray, congratulations, we did it.
Hey, finally.
I think there'll be a lot of relieved people in the community.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that would be we don't have to move for it right now, but the details can be ironed out. But we are scheduling the next election for Saturday, July the 9th.
Yeah, those bylaws are now ratified. They are official laws.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we can put that word out.
After we ratify the bylaw, I think we might need a deadline for naming a technical lead, or we might need to discuss about Plan B. But maybe it can go next week. It's fine.
Yeah, I think having a Plan B is an excellent idea. We should definitely have a Plan B. As I was saying in my opening, I think maybe if we just position this role as a CTO role, then maybe we can start building out a few other roles as well around that kind of C-suite lingo. So that's quite a simple way for people to understand. And then potentially that CTO role could be, I like what Brock said previously, it could be a 3-month term, but 1 month after we've started. So we also have that continuity, which would be around now. So we can speak with Edgar once he's back. But maybe we can also, help Chuck out a little bit out on the promotion of the original job proposal as well, because I wasn't able to have them last week. So I can help you with that this week, see if we can get anyone else to apply.
Well, one of the other things that we should probably be thinking about is we're talking about staggering and knowledge transfer and all of these things that I think are generally pretty good ideas that we've learned from history. Is a conversation about this board of chief delegates and its expansion. I mean, normally what you would eventually have is a staggered board where if we're on 90-day terms, that there might be an election every 45 days. If that's the intention, right? And so you'd have, if there's 5 of us now, we may add another 4 board members in the future. And those other 4 board members are, their elections coming up right now. And basically this is how you have staggered boards, which is what's typically done in organizations that, have existed for quite some time is, you're on a 2-year board terms, typically in a typical board of directors, and you have, staggered every year, half the board or so changes.
I agree with that. I just don't think that necessarily those roles should be elected roles, right? So the C-suite levels would be like the civil service, if you like. So they'd be hired, but then possibly ratified by the CDs rather than.
Well, we may not need it like here in the U.S. Our House of Representatives. There's an election every 2 years, and continuity exists through people that are currently in office being elected to serve multiple terms.
I've been thinking about one way to use this. Everybody's been asking, like, what's the whole point of the random choice of the head chief delegate? And he was awarded with 5x multiplier to his budget, that kind of stuff. And what's the whole point of that? What was envisioned in the system? And now we're talking about staggering. And one thing I thought of was what if the head chief delegate had the same budget as all of us, which is what we're going to be doing, but he stayed another month into the next term. Then you might be able to have that dovetailing and that transfer of knowledge that we're looking for. It's just an idea, but it might be something to consider, something that it'll be easy to implement at this point, because we already have the sortition, we already have all of this stuff all set up, but we could set up the head chief delegate to be that the role of the head chief delegate would be the transfer of knowledge onto the next board. But just an idea.
So personally, I mean, it's a good idea. It would work, I think. But I think technically it would change the way the smart contract works. I'm kind of speculating now. But I think that might be a bit of quite a big change, just the way the election process is currently laid out. And we're already making some changes anyway. In the UK, what we have is non-elected civil servants. So regardless of whoever is elected, you have a body of employees who are standard employees who do the kind of day-to-day work. But when the new government or the new representatives come in, they can decide to not renew those contracts of those individuals, go into a different direction or whatever. So it does have democratic oversight, but those individuals have fixed term contracts. So that would be how continuity work. In the US, I think you have a transition period, right, with the president. So you have November through to January, where the teams will kind of work together. You'll have a president-elect, and that's how that knowledge is transferred. Not really sure it's the exact elected individuals, but obviously that helps as well, having multiple term individuals. They'll be able to pass that through. But I think a paid kind of either member service, civil service, or kind of labeled as a C-suite might be an easier way for us to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just last point is, Chris Barnes and our secretary and the Helios team has, obviously been helping out, and I think that I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't put together this scaffolding necessary to give Eden the infrastructure necessary to be an organization that can make long-term, sustained, positive impact for the community. The resources exist. And so let's operate from a place of abundance. I mean, let's be efficient and frugal in the use of our capital, but let's assume that we're going to get the funds necessary to make this thing into an organization that serves this community broadly. I think that over the course of these next 3-4 weeks, let's get this team assembled so that this team is working under this oversight, this group of delegates, for at least 1 month. And the other thing I want us to focus on is how are we going to measure our success, in terms of KPIs. Let's make sure that we get that figured out so that the next organization coming in understands that they've got gauges. When they press the gas, they can see performance and determine whether or not they're driving in the right direction. And because eventually, if we want to keep asking for funds, we have to show that we're using funds efficiently and creating impact, measurable impact.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly with that, Rob. That was well said. I think the first KPI would be member growth, right?
I'd love us to have that data every meeting. How many members do we have? How much have we grown?
Okay. Yeah, let's do. Yeah.
But let's add that to our part of our update. We have our 2 minutes, right? One other portion of the update should be, here's our performance.
Yeah.
How are we doing? How's our balance sheet? But there should be a regular reporting portion of this meeting that probably is about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. It doesn't need to be long.
Yeah.
And I can rotate. The chair can present it, or the team can present it. Here's our member growth. Here's our treasury. Here's our, but this is just our regular reporting, which should be, I think, part of this meeting.
I agree. Totally.
One of those KPIs that's built right into Eden is the people who are doing the inviting, the recruiters, right? You have one person who invites somebody and then 2 witnesses, right? But the people who are doing the bulk of the inviting, they might be in a position where they're, for example, EOS support is taking on a lot of, onboarding duties, and you can basically go to EOS support and get yourself invited by them. But if we could find a way to, like you're saying at the beginning of every meeting, say these Eden members were responsible for these people coming on, again, it would be a part of engaging our membership and appreciating the people who are doing the work of onboarding particularly. Yeah,
but during our term, we want to see membership expand. We want to see the number of people running for office increase. We want to see the quality of the proposals improve. This is how we'll know we did our job well. This is our, our primary, I think, way of measuring, how well we did. If more people are joining and more people are running and more people want, to be involved in this, that's, I think, how we gave life to this. And the only reason I think a 3-month term makes any sense is because we want to keep the seats moving, musical chair style, right? 3 months is a very short term, but hopefully what that means is it's every chief delegate is coming in here for a sprint. And if we want people to assume these seats and sprint, then, we need to make sure they've got the tools to do so. reporting, KPIs. You know, it's when you come in here, it's like, all right, let's go. Right. And let's make sure that the scaffolding and the framework and the vehicle for long-term success is here. And that, okay, we got a technical lead. We've got a this, we've got a that. We want to empower the next set of chief delegates. I can tell you, and I assume it for all of us, I did not come in here feeling like, like we've got a tool belt, at our disposal and we're ready to build. I feel like, the first term was really about what is this organization and how is it going to be effective? It doesn't have any arms. It doesn't have any legs. It doesn't have a body, and why we're talking about putting in place this skeleton, right? Or scaffolding. I don't know which term we prefer, but I feel like we're already accomplishing something material that is going to allow this organization to perform significantly better post our term than it was when we arrived.
Great. I really like the ideas about the KPIs and showing the community what we really do. And then I think like we already go through the second and the third topic. And then
just the slightest of interruptions, Gracie. I agree. I think 2 and 3 are pretty much nailed, but maybe where your cursor is now on 3 under any conditions, maybe we should discuss what conditions we use the treasury under. That might be a valuable discussion.
Yeah. For me, I personally think that definitely the code change should be one. And then maybe the budget for the board should be one. And any conditions.
I think generally speaking, anything that we're going to set up as a persistent reality in the organization, the skeleton or the scaffolding, you can't expect individual delegates to be paying for that out of their elected, rewards for being elected. We need to set up a treasury-based funding for any job that we're going to be building that's a permanent position.
I agree. And I think before any money is being allowed to be spent, I think we need a proposal and a budget, and then the delegates should sign off on it. And only at that stage should any kind of additional revenue be considered to be spent.
And one other thing on as we have this conversation, we should be starting to keep a log or starting to redline, however we want to do that. The bylaws, if there's any changes we want to make at the end of our term, right, to pass off to the next group. We're already down to, we're 1/3 done. So, we need to start the beginning of organizing those thoughts now that the bylaws have been ratified, so that by the end of this 4-week period, we at least have a solid foundation of what modifications we wish to make to the bylaws, if any. And I think that these types of things that we're talking about, under what conditions treasury usage is an area where further refinement and sharpening the pencil is again, we want to hand over, we want to leave this organization much better than we found it.
Great. We will go to the next one.
We're not here to fill the seats.
Yes.
We're here to get the job done.
Yes. We want to really find something that can make the community grow big and solid.
To put things in perspective, we only have 6 weeks left to have confirmed what our new bylaw changes would be, to have 2 weeks before they're ratified. 2 weeks before the election. So that's literally just 6 weeks left to decide. So yeah, Brock's right. We need to start really thinking about what kind of changes we want and how we're going to position them.
Yeah, we spent 4 weeks reviewing and discussing and all the last things, but there's not really a break in between the two. It's like, okay, done, next. we're on a very short term, which means we don't. This is just get it done and figure out what we want to do and implement it. There's not a lot of time
And who wants to take the lead then in updating the team, the boards, should I say, with the KPIs each week? Obviously, I'm happy to do the comms side of KPIs and stuff because that's my area, and I'm happy to do the treasury as well.
If you're able to, let's talk about what goes into those KPIs. But at a minimum, I'd say that's the first set of KPIs. And the only other KPI to add to that is membership. And if you're able to do that one additional thing, I mean, I can have my team at Helios help me do that. Meaning I do it by delegating. But happy to work with you on that. Unless it depends on what the KPIs are. Yeah. If you're already doing 70% of the job, what's that? One more. If you're only doing 20% of the job, I don't want to just stick you with, and take out the trash and clean the dishes and everything else too.
I'm happy to clear the table for you, bro. No problem at all. Yeah, just add the memberships onto ours. We'll do that. It's no problem. And
then next week when we have a first round of KPIs, we can talk about what to add to it. I don't think we need to get too deep into that today. Let's just start getting it up and running, and then from there we build.
Perfect. Yeah.
Keep building.
We can think about that in this whole week. Yeah, and then the fourth is just about the EDM account permission and asset. We talked about that last week, and then we all agree they should all under control by the sitting cities. And then some of us are working on it, like Michael, and then Michael already shared the updates. I mentioned it today just to see if anyone had any updates, and I make a checklist, and then if you want to check what's going on, and then just use this form. Okay, we will go through this part.
I mean, I'm happy to give any updates again on that side of things. Like I say, I've reached out to Annabella, not heard back. We do have control or the ability to do most of the stuff we need, but we don't have the Genesis keys yet. So that's the big one. Still need to figure out.
And who will get in charge with the code, the GitHub of Eden?
The GitHub is Fractally. So we essentially just have to fork it, I believe.
Yes, we fork the code for Chinese Eden, and then we are thinking we will, because eventually they will have Eden that let all the community to fork, right? And then they need to be a code that is the main code. And then the other people just fork and change something they want. So
you're frozen, Gracie.
So we had a GitHub is what, and we lost our GitHub because the Eden GitHub changed its name to Fractally. They didn't create a new GitHub.
It began as the Clarion GitHub.
Got it. It began as the Clarion GitHub. The name is
always changing.
Yeah.
Got it. So Clarion GitHub is where the Eden work was done, and then Clarion became Fractally. Okay, understood. Yep. So we just need to fork. I would imagine with the technical lead, CTO, Secretary of Technology, whatever it is, cabinet person coming on board here over the next week, that would be a responsibility of theirs.
Okay, great.
One question I think Gracie was alluding to is maybe if the Chinese Eden has already forked it, do they need to refork it? Because obviously we need a master Eden then that the subsets can fork from. So would the Chinese Eden need to refork from our new master version? If so, would that negate some of their changes?
Or I guess we could work with the Eden. The question is who holds that Eden that Chinese Eden fork?
And then it's depends on if we want the changes they change, because maybe we are satisfied with the newest version, and then we will not fork the new changes. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, it makes sense, I think, to have a single repo that everybody else is going to be working from. Is that kind of what you're saying, Gracie? We should centralize that GitHub so that the other localizations can just use that as their core?
Yes, because it's like there is other community they reach to us, and then they ask how to fork the EDOM's code or how to work on their own language. That is because now the EDOM code is like they don't even have a document. So they are so confused of what the code is about. So we really need a main code, GitHub, and then for everything of that. And then we really need some documents for that to help the other community to build it.
Yeah, that's a big job. I mean, it's outside of the scope of the technical lead implementing the bylaws. But I think we all agree that the role of the technical lead is going to be bigger than just to implement the bylaws. Like the technical lead needs to, I think that this office needs to be in control of the GitHub. It needs to be in control of the code. It needs to have a roadmap for the code. It needs to decide what is worth keeping and what needs to be rewritten. I had a very interesting meeting yesterday morning, and a member of Eden said that the code itself is very, very cumbersome, and if it was refactored, it might be a very good idea to do that. Like it might be a very, very good idea to rewrite the code and get it into a position that we would be able to use it going forward, because right now it's extremely cumbersome. I didn't know that. All I see is that it works well, right? But apparently it's less than ideal code. And if it was rewritten, that would be a very large job. But it's something that we could commission. It's something that we could take the responsibility for, because I believe that we want to set up localizations around the world in every language. We want to be able to run Eden as a service. Eden could make money offering Eden as a service to DAOs, to governments, to anybody, right? Community organization, like I say, I'm trying to build a community organization on the ground here. And ideally, we would love to use the Eden process for governance. But if it's unused, like if we can't fork it, if we can't reproduce it, there's a problem there.
Isn't this what Fractally wants to do?
It is, yes. Well, the message that we received yesterday was just do it. Like, don't wait for Fractally to build this for you. Take control of the code, refactor it, learn what's going on. Like it would be a massive learning experience in the process. Anytime we can take apart a functional smart contract and look at how it works and rebuild it, it would be of benefit to us. That was the message. But the overall message was, don't wait for Fractally to build these tools for you. Just do it. We have everything in front of us. All we need to do is fix it up to our needs and push it out. But yeah, nobody knows when this Fractally thing is going to happen. And essentially the message is, just do not factor it into our decision making. And I'm personally, I'm open to setting things up so that we can take advantage of Fractally when it's a reality. But right now, it's just not a reality, and we should not be factoring it into our decision making.
I'll reach out to Dan as well and have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
One conversation that might be worth having as well. Is there anything that we think what we're doing here, is there any relevance to what we're doing here in the context of Twitter?
Oh, goodness, yes. Twitter's about to light on fire for crypto again, right?
Well, in its privatization, is there anything around transparency and governance that we would propose? If we want to put together a proposal for Twitter and Elon Musk, as an organization that is actually doing things, has a framework, has a process, do we feel we're in a position to do that? Because that ship is that train is about to go. And I can't say more on a recorded line.
If we did, would you have the ability to get it in front of someone who was a decision maker, Brock? Brock, would you be able to get it in front of a decision maker? If we were to,
I said I can't say more. I can't say more here. But if you want to have a conversation with me, that these organizations are very sensitive to. I think without me saying anything, the answer is inferred.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think as an idea, as a straight idea, I think it's awesome, and I think we could leverage that in a big way if we could, make it work. I'm behind it.
Those of us who participated in this for the last year, and we saw the mock elections, our first election on August or October 9th, like it was very exciting. It was very enjoyable to use the process. And there was an urgency to it. It was like, we can fix problems in the world if we just got this bloody thing built, right? That was the urgency that a lot of us were experiencing. And like, if we just freaking built the thing and got it functional, Eden as a service that we can, it doesn't have to be scalable right now, but if we just got it out the gate and not even got out the gate, if we just decided that we can do this, like we can take this code and build something really nice with it. And it doesn't need to be this humongous complex system. Right now, the core is Eden election as a process, right? And Eden election could be this noun that becomes a regular thing. How are you going to decide this? Oh, let's run an Eden election. That's the kind of thing that I think a lot of us in the community are excited about. Is like, we have this tool at our fingertips. We just have to get it polished and usable so that it's easily duplicatable. We don't own this process. It's an open thing, and anybody in the world can use it. And I think that's the direction we can go in if we're offering it to somebody, something like Twitter. Like, imagine if it was a plugin that anybody could use with their Twitter account. You just log into a room in the same way that right now you log into Twitter Spaces to listen to something. If you could just log in with your Twitter account, and Musk is talking about human verification and all this kind of stuff, like that's all going to get taken care of. We don't need to necessarily code that all into Eden now. We don't need to think about that. But like, what a terrific idea, making it a plugin for Twitter. Like, it's doable right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And then we see Eden as a services from the beginning, and we work on that. That's why we make a lot of sub project about Eden. And then just like, if you want to make an election, solve a problem, you do a Eden election. If you want to maybe have a job, work together, you use Eden test system. It's like that. We are trying to work on this kind of things. And then we think the code is not the priority things. It's the process. It's the way we governance everything. That's the point. We even now we are working on some kind of things that it's off chain. We just try to see the governance, if it's work, and the process, if it's good. We don't even start coding yet, because if this really works, the code is not the really important things. We can use some other things to instead of the code, and then wait for the system to be done.
What about if Twitter used Eden as its transparent consensus mechanism for deciding how the organization was run? I think that would be quite an exciting proposition for Twitter. You're muted, Brock.
I was just saying, let's not spend too much time in this meeting going over that. I just wanted to put it out there as something that we should look at. And Michael, if you want to give me a call afterwards, or if at the end of this meeting we want to take 2 minutes just to do a closed session, we can do that.
I think we already talked a lot about community engagement, and then maybe we can take out some topic and talk about the details.
Can we plan an event on community engagement? If the election is July 9th, Can we do a virtual Eden conference or something on maybe June 1?
Yeah.
Our community is used to getting together on June 1. Does Eden want to contribute to hosting a June 1 EOS virtual conference gathering in the metaverse or something? It seems like a good idea. I'd be, how are we going to, if KPIs is growing our membership and growing our user base, this could be open to non-Eden members too, right? As a way of, getting people familiar with all the things going on within Eden and EOS and what we're doing. And it's a month before elections, so people sign up and get involved, and we create a bunch of excitement so that July 9th is, got more civic engagement and participation.
Yeah, I love it. I would, if you want to put a motion forward to vote for that, I would back your motion for that, and then I think we should go ahead and do it.
I think before we just do it, we need to understand who would be running it and how we would organize it. I don't want to just have us approve things with no one ready to actually do it, and what are the resources going to cost. But I think if we have a few minutes, maybe we want to just briefly talk about this, because I think if our KPIs are what we are generally speaking about, what are we going to do to drive those numbers? This feels like something that's good for the community and drives our metrics positively.
Yeah. I've been thinking for a while that we need to have a weekly Twitter Spaces. That would be an incredibly good way of having another KPI. And we can, if we just had a weekly session. I mean, we've got the fireside chat on the Eden. I mean, the ENF Discord at 4 p.m. my time. Anyway, on Wednesdays. But if we could have a regular Twitter space that was just set in stone, this is going to be Eden Twitter space, and just do it. People are going to come, and it'll just snowball from there. Another thing is like Brock, you mentioned a metaverse. A Twitter space with avatars in the metaverse is another way to do it, right? I don't know how many people play Blankos here, but it's a fantastic way to just stand around somewhere and chat, right? And jump around. There are other. Did you play Blankos, Brock?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a lot of fun, and I actually haven't played it in a while, but you just sit there with your avatar, jump around and stuff. But if a Twitter space using a different metaverse kind of layer would be a lot of fun. But we could just schedule a Twitter. Say we go to the members channel and ask when a good time to have a weekly Twitter space would be, and we just institute it and get it rocking this week. I think we can do that.
Did you say get it brocking?
Rocking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Rocking, I like that. Yeah, we've got that scheduled, Chuck. We're going to start doing those. We had originally planned for Tuesday, but we can start tomorrow if you want.
I guess my question is, from a social perspective, when is an ideal time to get the largest number of users? Is that on a Saturday or Sunday, or is that on a Tuesday late afternoon? I'd love to not just pick a time. I'd love it to be based upon, peak hours where we're going to see, if KPIs and metrics are what we want, when are we going to get the largest audience to participate is, how I would encourage us to make that decision.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we
can initiate that.
I'd be down to participate in that. And it sounds like, Michael, this is something you should be leading. And then as we bring on someone to payroll to be doing this, then that's their kind of day-to-day responsibility is headcount.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, back that.
Do we want to adjourn early and then we can jump back into that other topic?
Sure. Unless, Gracie, you have anything else you want to go over?
I want to share a little bit about the community engagement. in our weight. I'm not so sure if because for on our opinion, it's like we want to create some business on EOS, really business, not just like DeFi or something that it's a business, but not really so many people using it. We are kind of like to bring some traditional business into EOS, just like maybe just e-economic shopping online, like this kind of things, because we have sources from the factory in China, and then they really want to sell things, and then they really want some other ways that it's really globalization, not always controlling by the companies, and then there's always block your account like that. So we think if we do things like this and build it on EOS, and then because there is a lot of small job in this kind of business, just like promotion or something like that, it can engage the whole community to take a little job and get paid. Maybe it's not much, but everybody will get involved and finally earn a little bit money on EOS, because EOS itself is not really, but we think we want to try to do this kind of way to let the community engage, and then really like everybody working together and create a business that owns for the community. It's like that.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday in this meeting, we were discussing different ways to have income for Eden, and James Mart brought up, what if we offered Eden as a body who could be an MSIG signer for different applications, different DAOs, or just different large accounts, right? We one of the major selling points for EOS.io is our permission system and how secure accounts can be. And Eden is proven people through our election system. We've got proven responsible people, you might say, and we could offer and we could build a product very, very quickly. We could build a product where we can offer MSIG as a service to anybody out there. And we have provably responsive people. We also have people who are developers who can read the code, who can actually go through and say, yes, this proposal is what it says it is. We can offer MSIG as a service. And James Mart brought it forward. Like he just said, like, it's something that we can do right now. It doesn't even need to come from the board or the CDs. It can come from Eden membership itself. And we can say, look, if you want, a few responsible people to sit as MSIGs on your account, Eden is your place to do that. And it could be our first sort of business to business service. Never mind the whole election system and all that stuff, but the main product that we have here is vetted human responsible people. So if we can push that as our product, and again, in the EOS, the blue papers, there were so many instances, as Aaron said last term, there were so many instances in the blue papers of if we had a body of people to manage this, it would be great, and there were so many lines like that where we just need some trustworthy people to handle this task, right? And Eden can be that body of people we can just farm ourselves out. The organization can identify people to provide trustworthy bodies for MSIGs, right? And it's something that we can do very, very quickly and easily.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. The only advice I would give us is whatever we decide Eden does in the business sphere, we find our customer first before we invest in anything in changing or rebuilding packages. Number one business rule is if you can find your customer first, you have your customer ready to go, then we can shape our tech or our package or our offer for that specific customer, and then make sure we get our some income from it rather than invest speculatively. So always make sure we have a customer first, but I don't think that's going to be hard to find, especially given.
Yeah, they're all there. We have plenty of large accounts with not enough signers on them.
There you go. Exactly.
In EOS.
Perhaps then a new role would be a chief business officer or a chief growth officer or something along those lines who could handle that side of things.
Yeah, business development. The big thing that I'd love to see is someone that can go around and speak at the conferences. Which is your biz dev, sort of corp dev type of person that should be out there, making the rounds everywhere. A person on the road. So much of the work is done on the crypto circuit, right? So much of the work happens in person.
Yep, I agree. And we have the resources to support someone to do that. So I think we should prioritize CTO and CBO or whatever, name they may have.
All right. So I think we're out of time.
Yeah, we have just reached 1 hour. So the next meeting will be at the same time.
Same place.
Yeah. And Michael will chair the meeting.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Yep,
Okay.
Same time, same place.
Right.
I don't know if I'll be able to do such a good job as you, Gracie. You managed to keep it exactly 1 hour and keep everyone in line. So you've done a really good job. So congrats. I'll do my best to try and match your skills.
Thank you, Gracie.
Thanks, Gracie. You're a hero.